take a idea and follow through with it. You keep that in mind, because it's as you think you are.
Many of us, we want to create something. We want a different lifestyle. We look in the mirror, we look at our lives, and we think to ourselves, I want to manifest something different. What Lindell just did was giving you the key to do that. You get in mind, begin thinking from. I was talking to someone who's going through med school right now, and she's in the process of doing her exams, and she says, my heart's desire is to be a doctor. I said, you are a doctor. And so I called her by her last name, and I called her doctor. And that will be my title for her, because I want her to begin living from being a doctor, not thinking of being a doctor. And it goes back to what you said. Even though you're dealing with many things throughout your day, even in dealing with those many things throughout the day, is I'm Dr. such and such.
That was fantastic. that really nailed it down, because that's exactly what it is. And no matter what the situation, whether it's a doctor or whatever, but you're right. That's exactly what you do. You see, all denial, we're told, is self-denial. Now, right there, that means you're in charge, because you're thinking ahead of your evidence. So since you're thinking ahead of your evidence, that means what you thought a moment ago might happen, you're now changing it to something different. You see, you're in charge. Take charge. That's all Scripture is telling you to do, is just take charge of your life. They themselves are makers of themselves. That really explains it as far as I'm concerned. Don't you think so?
I agree, and you make me think about a young lady that's in the group, and she was struggling with an exam, finances, and she said, well, I don't do well in finances, and she had all these reasons why she wasn't doing well on this test. And I told her, I said, somebody told you that story early on. Who was it? And she named the person that told her that she wasn't good in finances. From that point, she thought to herself and thought of herself as a person who wasn't good in finances. I said, you have to change the story. Long story short, she changed the story, passed the test. There were some other impending circumstances that took place, but everything led up to her passing that test. And as you stated often, we do this every day, all day. Would you agree?
That's it. In other words, you're doing it every moment of time, making your future. Every moment of time, because you're on all the time, because you're thinking to yourself, talking to yourself all the time. So it's an all-the-time thing, and all the time is now. What are you thinking, feelingly now? That's your future. So make it something lovely and a good report. Wouldn't you say?
I would. And, you often say that we're thinking ahead of our evidence, and I know that Neville also said that a lot. And we so take present moment thinking for granted, and we believe that we can think anything and it will have no consequences on the future. As you stated so often, is we believe that it's falling back to the past. It's not true. And if we begin to realize that whatever it is that I'm giving my attention to at the moment, it's creating my future. It's like a paintbrush stroke or a artist's pencil on a sketch pad. Every time we think that thought, we're adding another stroke to the canvas called the masterpiece called our life. Would you agree?
That's it. You said it. It actually is our own canvas, and we're the one painting the picture. What would you paint? They do that with the little children. They let them, paint something on themselves, and then it kind of gives them an idea of that child's feelings toward himself and his world and environment. But why don't we do the same thing? What would you paint on your canvas? I mean, honestly, that's really the big point of this, is that you be honest with yourself when you're actually involved in finding out how you work. The mind works very simply as you think you are. Just take it from right there. You don't need to know the science behind it. You just know that it works, and it does work. Do so and see so for yourself so.
You know, and it's funny, I was talking to a friend today. She's an educator. She's a professor at a particular university. And so I was telling her about my current book project, The 7-Second Prayer. And basically, you know, Neville says that if somebody makes a request of him, he says, you know, these people are my friends, so I wouldn't charge them anything. Once they gave me the request, I would just see them manifesting or having the thing that they said that they wanted. And he said, you know what, it shouldn't take any more than 10 seconds. So this was the premise of the 7-Second Prayer, to get in mind what it is that you want.
But then let it go. You understand?
Absolutely.
But then let it go. See, the thing of it is, everybody plays with it.
Neville equated the letting go as an orgasm. He says, you know that when you're at the peak of this imagining, because you've released it and there's a satisfaction there and you're done with it. Letting that thing go, whatever it is that you're imagining for yourself or someone else, once it's been released, you go on about your business. Now the work becomes subconscious, God's work, and you allow the bridge of incident to be what it's going to be. But many times we're trying to figure out the bridge. We're trying to figure out the pathway to the manifestation of the thing that we've saw in vision, as it were. But that's not our business, and that's what I would tell anyone. Once you let it go, you let it go.
The subconscious mind is God's way of taking no responsibility for what you choose, because the subconscious mind builds your world according to your feeling nature. God is suffering with you and your decisions. He said, I suffer with you, but you behold me not. He gave you, choose this day. And you're doing so whether you are aware you're doing so or not. The idea that if you're aware and you're choosing, it's an assumption that you'll choose what you want, not what you don't want. But you see, people sit around and they actually are choosing what they don't want and then crying about it. It's up to you to feel after him, and that him you're feeling after is you. Doing, being, and having your heart's desire. Anything else is wasting your time, and you're not going where you want to go. You say so?
I agree. You know, and a lot of times, many of us wonder why we're spinning our wheels. And often, I'm probably going to get in trouble for this, but I think that you would agree. Many of us believe that we have to settle. We believe that because so-called life has dealt us this hand, that we have to accept it, and that we have no way of changing the outcome, that it's fate, as it were. And it's just not so. This is what religion of men teach. This is not Scripture. This is not Bible. This is not God. As you think, choose this day, be it unto you according to your faith. That's the law of God.
That's exactly what it is. And you use it wisely or unwisely. You're given to choose. You know, we're told that worshiping God is using his gifts. So what did he give you? He gave you gifts. And can you imagine a box that was given to you from God and there'd be nothing in it? No. You see, on one side, you're agreeing with God, but on the other side, you're disagreeing with God. You know what you're to do, but do you do it? It's really that simple. If you know what to do, well, then do it. It's always up to you. God's not going to intercede in any way. Everybody's looking for God to intercede. No, he doesn't do that. He gave you choose this day, and you are doing so. And he's suffering with you, he says, but you don't behold him not. But he does, and he waits for you to change your world.
You know, and going back to my conversation with my friend that's a professor, you know, I could tell as I was talking about these principles and the law and so forth that it was foreign to her. She had never heard it. She probably went to a traditional church and so forth, but what we're teaching you, what we're telling you about, what we've discovered through revelation, it's not the norm. It's not what campuses are teaching. It's not what pulpits are teaching. It's not what scientists are teaching, for the most part, except when you start stepping into like quantum physics, metaphysics, and so forth. But traditional science, Newton's law, as Blake called it, they're not teaching these principles. So when we introduce these principles, when you introduce as a listener, when you introduce these principles to those you love, to your friends and so forth, don't think it's strange that they don't understand. They have not received what you have.
You're absolutely right. That's it. They listen too much to what other opinions are. That's all it is just their opinion. What we're sharing with you is a first-person, present-tense experiencing. It's not theory. It's not speculation. You can test it for yourself. You don't have to join anything or belong to anything or be anything that they claim you have to be. You don't. You can turn this moment and recognize who you are and be free. If that's what you're looking for, it's always right with you. When you're ready, it's ready. See, God's already ready. He's already told you that if you turn to me, I'll turn to you. So he awaits you.
And you said something. You said you could check it for yourself. What you find in religious circles is that they'll tell you, just go off faith, take my word for it. What we're telling you with everything that we tell you, like Lester Livingston, I don't know if you know Lester Livingston, but he came up with this thing called the Sedona method. And he often say when he was talking, don't believe what I'm saying, check it for yourself. And that's what we're telling you also. Don't believe it because Lindell said it. Don't even believe it because Neville said it, but certainly don't believe it because DeCarlo said it. Check it for yourself. Would you agree?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. In the first place, I'll tell you this. God is with you, so you don't need them. You see, they're teaching you to help the economy, not to help you. So you want to remember that. They are teaching you to help the economy. I know there are great teachers there, and they would teach you otherwise, but, you know, that's the reason why the curriculum's always made up from somebody else. Do you understand that?
I do. And let me clarify, who Lindell's talking about is when we're talking about universities and when we're talking about secular teaching and so forth, most of these people are doing it for the benefit of university, for business. It's business. We're pointing you to you. Our goal is to get you to begin looking within and discover God, discover salvation, discover Christ. It's within you.
If they don't, then they won't never know. Look within it, they'll never know. It's as simple as that. If you want to stay your same self throughout eternity, you can do so. As you think you are.